Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Mark, do you still have our special offer for listeners?
We do. We have a special offer, and the best way to get that is to go to our website, and the shortcut to Leibovit VR newsletters is VRTrader.com. That's V as in Victor, R as in Robert, Trader.com, and when you'll see a bunch of newsletters up on the screen, and you pick the one or all. Frankly, I'd love to see you sign up for all of them, and when you get to the order page, a promo code box is on the order page, and you enter the promo code 2021 half off, 2021 HALFOFF, and you get 50% off for any time frame or newsletter you select.
Do you think the stock markets are going to continue to set records?
You know, we're at the point where, I think we're starting to lose some momentum here when you look at a stock like Tesla, which, I guess I would have to call that a market leader, though some would argue now that Bitcoin is the market leader, the way it's been exploding in recent days. Stock got up to $900, and it's gotten to the mid-700s, and it's been sort of sliding here in the last week or so. So, I think some of the leadership has been lost, and we've seen in previous market cycles where in many instances the high flyers, the NASDAQ names, for example, top out ahead of the overall market. We saw that over a year ago in a similar pattern in the fall of 2019, for example. And you just you wonder if the best is a bit behind us here. So. My overall feeling is the January barometer, which I did not invent. I have to give credit to where it's due. It's Yale Hirsch in the 1970s, and January was down as compared to the December close. And based on that, you can call it an arcane indicator. Nothing is 100%, but the bottom line is that that says a down year. So whether we'll go up one more time first or it'll hang around for a while, but it would say be careful for 2021. So a short-term call, March is a treacherous time for the markets. Many times, in not all instances, we see change points around March. Last March, we saw a significant sell-off, as you know. There are some years where, in fact, so many bear markets have ended in March. So we certainly have not been in a bear market, but sometimes you get pullbacks into that time frame. We'll have to see how the market acts here in the next 3 weeks, and whether we're going to stage one more or two more rallies. But we're sort of in this negative short-term time frame. So a little bit on the fence here. I am short the market via some inverse indexes here, thinking we can get a bit more of a pullback. And again, my concern is some of the leadership. I use Tesla as an example, but there's a bunch of other names, high flyers, that are starting to come under some pressure here. So my answer to you is, a little bearish for the time being.
Is the setup the same for this March as last March? Not that we'll have a new pandemic rolling in, but in terms of what's going on in the market.
We can't predict outlier events. I mean, you don't know what's around the corner, and I guess we saw one last year, and we're all holding our breath. Where what is the other shoe going to drop? And maybe you can argue from a bullish perspective, we're climbing a wall of worry, that we're all worried about that. But there are a lot of uncertainties out there. I don't want to take away from the big picture bull market theory, overall, no matter how hard they come down, they all seem to come back. You know what I mean? If you're in your 20s or 30s and you're saving for the long term, it really doesn't make difference if the market drops 30% because a year later it's back up again, or 2 years later it's back up again. We just saw the classic example this past year. So I don't want to take away from the big bullish scenario which says the Dow could be 40 or 50,000 here in the next 5 or 10 years or less, with the kind of momentum we've seen. But we definitely had a hell of a run, and the bond market is showing signs of interest rates starting to tick up a little bit. So nothing dramatic, but there might be other places for people's money or concern that things could be changing with the currencies around the world and the growth of the cryptocurrencies now, and a lot of talk about a economic reset down the road, whether that's going to happen or not. So I'm going to answer you to say, basically cautious short term. Let's see how it unfolds here. We're traders. We're in and out of stuff. I mean, if the market has a nice dive and it looks like it can run again, we'll be back long the stocks that we think are going to be in play. But so many of the high flyers, I'm just thinking out loud here, like the solar stocks, which I liked so much, and many of the electric vehicle stocks and alternate energy stocks seem to have topped out here, and they were hot for so many months. So, of course, we had the big blow off with the Reddit Robinhood group with GME and a lot of these other little stocks recently, and you can look back at that and say that's a classic sign of market speculation at the top, like a blow-off type event when you see this type of panic buying coming in. And you're also starting to see a lot of very cheap stocks. I'm talking about penny names, and we're trading a couple of them, by the way, but stocks that are trading at 2-3 cents a share or 10 cents make these significant 400% moves in day or two periods. And, the 40 years that I've been around, usually that's a sign of a market peak when you see that type of speculation. So I'm being a little repetitive here, but there's definitely some signs of caution.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, with the deep freeze extending down to Texas and affecting all the refineries there, is that going to affect the price of oil, gas, and gasoline?
Well, it has already. We saw a little bit of an uptick here in the last few days, but I would point out that the oil market has been recovering anyway, ever since the big washout last March when crude oil got to negative, $30 a barrel, and it's been sort of zigzagging its way up. The Keystone Pipeline story, may have some effect as well. The oil, we still need oil. My work is, we trade them, but I'm bullish and have been bullish on oil here for months. So I don't think it's over yet. So I don't think it's necessarily a result of the freeze. I think the move was underway and has been underway. And, so much talk about alternate energy and, we don't need oil anymore, which is a bunch of nonsense, because we need oil even to produce the alternate energy vehicles and wind power and all the other stuff that incorporates oil-related products. So I think, one of the big surprises may be crude oil at significantly higher levels here in the next year or two, maybe even pushing at $80 to $100 a barrel level, which nobody thought we would ever see again. So also we got potential international conflicts, from stretching from Iran to China, and who knows what, the world's still dependent on oil, so I'm bullish.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. China, the world's biggest supplier of rare earths, is making noises about limiting its exports, especially to the U.S., for the construction of strategic materials such as the F-35 fighter, which apparently has over 400 kilos of rare earths on board. Is this just noise or something that we should really be paying attention to, especially for the rare earth market?
Well, we got to be paying attention to China anyway. I mean, they're really not our friends. And, you start digging into it, Jim, I mean, they're looking to take over the world in a different way. I mean, this is not World War II type conflict, but stealing trade secrets from companies and governments, and they're infiltrating the governments themselves with key players. I mean, we don't want to mention names, but still a lot of named diplomats are either married to or related to some Chinese, and we find out there's a lot of payback when that happens. So a lot going on in the background besides the rare metals and rare earth metals and so forth with the Chinese. So, military conquest is not their number one objective, but their conquest is happening in other ways. And unfortunately, this is something that I'd written about years ago. It appeared to me this century might be the century for China, where the U.S. would take a nosedive and China would take the lead. Now, it might not be till the middle of the century, but we seem to be on that course. And, we've been trying to redirect pharmaceuticals that were produced almost exclusively in China back to the United States. That Kodak story that came out a few months ago about trying to get key pharmaceutical products produced here and not so dependent on China is still an important factor for us. So besides the rare earths, so we got other issues. So I don't know how we're going to pull ourselves out of this. We're going to really have to become independent, and if China's controlling all the rare earths, we're in trouble.
Well, I mean, China's been pretty blatant about what it's trying to do at the BC Union of Municipalities annual meeting, all the towns and cities in British Columbia. The Chinese government had a hospitality suite, and they did a survey, and a third of the mayors had no problem going there, even though they said, this won't influence any decision I make.
Yeah, well, there's apparently a lot of, payback for being friendly with the Chinese, follow the dollar. I mean, they're buying their way into government, into companies, and whatever they can't buy, they're stealing. And unfortunately, we have a real enemy here in a whole different way. I mean, I've been to China a couple times, and I was very impressed, with their advanced infrastructure and, beautiful clean cities and skyscrapers and roadways and airports. I mean, they're really, when you're really there and you see what they've done, and you look at the deteriorating infrastructure and what's happened in the West, particularly here in the U.S., you can see why they're leapfrogging ahead of us. They're just it's an advanced culture. I mean, even though I don't agree with communist dictates, it certainly has worked for them. And of course, they're capitalists too. I mean, they're communist capitalists. As long as the communists are making money, they can control their population, and top people can make billions of dollars. It's okay with them. So they're looking for power and money. And what can you say? I mean, this is the world we're in. Are you and I going to change it? No, but at least we can recognize what's happening.
Well, should we stop calling it the Chinese Communist government, because it doesn't seem to be out for the little guy? It's more like the Chinese fascist government.
Apparently so. That's a good way of phrasing it. Yep. So, I mean, in a real way, they're our big their enemy. And the funny thing is, when you read all the press here in the U.S. and perhaps the same in Canada, for years it was Russia. Like Russia is our enemy. They're probably more our ally than our enemy, and it seemed like we've been misdirected, maybe intentionally. Maybe the media has been controlled on a certain level by the Chinese. Maybe they've been paid off to talk about Russia versus China. I mean, we've seen a lot of payoffs already, including the scandal with Donald Trump and the false Russian documents that were created to try to steer us against Russia versus the U.S. So versus China. I'm sorry. So maybe that's part and parcel to it all.
Is there a shortage of shipping containers? We've heard that China has been shipping stuff here, but instead of waiting for them to be filled with goods from North America, mostly agricultural products to be shipped back to China, they're just picking up the empty containers and taking them back home.
I really don't know that story. I believe it. If you're telling me, I don't know. Anything is possible. They got so much control over so much of what's going on in the world right now that we're not really talking about. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, we see, the big Costco Chinese overseas shipping company container ships tied up here in Vancouver.
Nothing off Long Beach in Southern California either, or you don't know?
Well, I think it was American farmers who were complaining they had trouble getting their product shipped over to China.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, not related to COVID, huh?
Well, nowadays it seems everything's related to everything. You can't say this is a pure trade. There's always some kind of manipulation or somebody trying to cook the books in the background somewhere.
Okay. Well, we being in the market for as long as I've been, I understand the phrase "cook the books." So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Or change the goalposts or the way the playing field is sloped. I don't know. Was there ever a time when trading was honest?
Where money is involved, there's always going to be bad players. You don't want to say it's a dishonest game because there's so many honest people there doing their job and trying to do it honestly, but there are dishonest things going on all the time. We've seen them in Wall Street and all kinds of businesses. So it's the individual, we're going to see it, and now we see it in governments like China and others. So, we got other things to be concerned about here. You got the Israeli-Iranian situation, and how the U.S. is going to react to that, and whether they're going to support Iran or not here, and how Israel's going to react to all that. And Israel's not too happy about Iran developing any nuclear weapons. You could see a military action in the Mideast out of the blue, dramatic in some ways. So I think there's some outlier events coming this year. I think it's going to be, not necessarily more viruses. Who knows? Maybe that too. But I'd hold your breath and put on your crash helmet and seatbelt this year. I think you're going to see a lot of action both directions.
Mark, any areas of special interest that we should be keeping a close eye right now on?
Yeah, I'm watching the metal market because, as you know, there's so many gold bugs out there, and I've been sort of bearish ever since the 2060 high, and I was predicting when we start to pull back, we might see the mid-1700s. Of course, I'm talking in U.S. dollars now, and I stop being quoted when I start talking about that because the gold bugs don't like to hear it's going to go down. And then we rallied back up, and now we're headed down again. So I've been sort of writing that we might potentially see the mid-1500s in gold. So it's, it's got to the high 1700s again, then rallied over 1800. It might happen, and at that point, maybe we'll have, some interesting buying opportunity. Silver seems to be holding up a little bit better. We'll have to watch silver. Silver may be the better play on a relative basis, if I'm correct, and if it happens and you get pushed down toward the 1500s or low 1600s in gold and silver is holding, that might be, a heck of an opportunity for trade in both markets and maybe more so in silver. So I've been sort of eyeing that, and we'll see if that scenario even unfolds. So that's sort of one of the areas that I'm really focusing in on, because if I'm right, and that's a big if, but that's what my work says at the moment, there could be some huge profit opportunities this year in the one or both of those commodities.
Mark, can you remind our listeners again about the special offer?
Sure. VRtrader.com is where you go, and the promo code you enter for any of the newsletters is 20212021, half off, HALFOFF, for 50% off of any of our newsletter products. And again, thank you for mentioning it.
Mark, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Have a great week.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.